Hi, Ben.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Let me share my screen real quick. I know a lot of people are busy in April, so it might just be us two, but I did want to talk about a few things that are very important. Um, so we don't have to come up with a decision today, but I think some of I pinged you already on a few of the items, but um we can wait a few minutes before we get started. But just wanted to set the context for the meeting.
Sure.
All right, April 14th.
And I see the notice is gone. Uh, Reaching the limit. So
Yeah, yeah. I thought
it,
we
it
I thought we changed HackMDs. I tried to find it, but that was like something completely different.
oh
Uh, Why is this HackMDs becoming slow because of it? All right.
and now I'm in BST. So our times are aligned again.
Oh, are you?
Uh, well,
Not.
British summertime, so we got
Yeah,
summertime.
yeah. Okay, so I have this document in Slack, which I don't know what the easiest way to like bring it up at. Let me see if I can uh copy link and bring it up in this to make it easier. No, that's so annoying. Let me try this. Might be easier if I do this. Nope. Bah. Okay.
You want to
Uh,
put it in a guest file or in a HackMD file? Or I have them um,
I could
downloaded.
probably, let me see here. Let me save it and then reopen it. Might be easier just to go to like downloads. And just reopen it. One sec. Go to Finder, downloads. Ba, ba, ba. Today. Huh? Did not download it? Thought I downloaded it. All right. Open file. Where are you? Uh, uh, uh. Oh, is it in documents? Okay. Sorry. Trying to find all the stuff. No, it's not in documents. Where the heck is this? Uh, Move, download,
Okay,
save. All right.
so if you want, I created a gist file.
Oh,
Just
you
put it.
did. Oh, awesome, awesome. Okay. Um, I will go to your Slack real quick.
I put it
Oh, in the WebEx chat, or not WebEx,
in
sorry.
the in the HackMD.
Oh, I see it. Okay. That's not it. Is it? Oh, wait. Yeah, it is. Okay. Uh, uh, uh. Oh, come on. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you for doing that. That makes it a lot easier. So here's the purpose and the context. So I've been talking with a lot of different people from various companies, like Matt Doggerly is one of them. And anytime someone, whether that is another organization internal here at Apple, or someone like external at another company, I always have to go through the same like good practices, like good designs for events. Um and what I wanted to call out is, rather than having it be hearsay, just have it like solidified in in a document somewhere. And we don't have to get this right the first time, right? Like we can always just iterate on it. But I wanted just to call out, that we have no like governance rules anywhere, right? So I was wondering if you felt the same way, just having it somewhere, just so like, if someone's new trying to create new events, they could just go to these documents to understand like what is considered a like a valid or conforming field versus not. Um, and we can also say the constraints are best practices, but not like hard constraints, if that makes sense as well, right? So, like, there might be some subtle edge cases where it might be needed for a particular event. So we can say, okay, that constraint doesn't really apply for this particular use case, right? So I wanted just to call that out. Did that make sense, Andrea?
Um, yeah, yeah. I think. I mean, um, yeah. I think the purpose makes sense. So, I mean, we started the project some time ago, and in the beginning we had no adoption, no people
Hmm.
like actually using it. Now we're at the stage where people have been doing things with seed events, and so it makes sense now that we have more experience to kind of give more guidance.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, so I think it probably makes sense to to have like best practices, maybe also for different use cases.
yeah.
Yeah, so I read through these, and I mean, I think in general, I agree with the general direction. I think it might be too strict for some of the use cases that I've been working on. But yeah, I mean, we can discuss and iterate on them and see what it is that.
Yeah, and I think too, like one thing I want to call out, because yeah, I purposely made it strict. That way we can always loosen it. I don't want to start too open and then where we need to loosen because or make it more strict. Because at that point, we start introducing like, breaking changes or bad fields, right? So that's why I went with it from this direction. That way we could just like slowly open it up when the use case calls for it. So I hope that strategy makes sense, but I'm okay too if we feel that one or however many is too strict, how we can go about making it work for what we have or what you're working on as well. So if
Mhm.
you want to like maybe I'll create a PR and you can just like flag it and say, this is what I'm thinking about. Would that be a good approach?
Um, y- yeah, yeah. I mean, I think on a PR we can, discuss on line by line, so that's always convenient.
Yeah.
I'm not sure whether. So I'm just trying to think out loud. Sorry.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, no worries, no
whether
worries.
this is like a separate document or whether it fits anywhere in the existing spec, just to um, just thinking. So I mean, I guess it may be different users. So I guess the spec is really like technical for people sending events or
Mhm.
writing SDKs. This might be more for people who wants to like work on their own events or extend
Yeah.
the specification. So maybe we need to create something in the docs that direct people to the right
Do
place
this. Yeah.
to look at, depending on what it is that they're trying to do.
Yeah, it makes
But
sense.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Okay, what I will do then is I'll create a PR. I'll rename this because it's not really constraint. It's more like best practices, right?
mm,
So I just called it constraints because that's what I was using as internal because like I was like, man, we really need to like add some constraints. But yeah, this is more of like best practices. So I'll go ahead and rename that. One
mm.
thing that I did want to ask you, what ones were you looking at that were like too strict? Because that way I can kind of think about them as I create the PR.
Yeah, I mean, I understand I mean the point that anything that is not uh, fitting the definition of what is the naming? Like the definition of data that is clearly kind of constrained that you have in there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So kind of the metadata should not be in the events.
Hmm.
And I mean, I understand I think I understand where you're coming from with that, but I think there might be like architectural issues with having like all the sources of the events making that information available through other means that are not the events, because the event may go across like system boundaries. So I could
Hmm.
post the event to like a public bus, and it could be that I decide what should go in the event, so what I want to make public, and I don't necessarily have like an HTTP service to provide extra details to other people.
Hmm.
So that's kind of one of the concerns I have. Um,
Well, that concern I think is still fine, because the whole purpose, right, is that if some external system is adding, like, I don't know what the exact use case is, and I think these are the things that we really need to like put, in the PR to kind of discuss them. But like, if it's some, intermediary third party that is injecting, whatever field or custom data field that doesn't, conform to like the best practices, then it should really be up to how whoever that is the consumer to kind of dictate whether or not it's considered, oh, not considered, well, we have a service, but yeah, it would be the service that determines whether or not it's valid, right? So yeah, but like I said, we'll create it in PR and we'll move in that direction. And I want to understand that use case a little bit better. Um, because I'm a little once you start letting external people or external services just add whatever without any restraints, that's like really dangerous. And that's what I'm trying to avoid. If they're adding
mhm.
things, we do it in a governance type of way, right? So that's why I just want to make sure that whatever fields that you're thinking is for that particular use case is either alleviated with an additional constraint, or we loosen one a little bit. But that's the big call out there is we don't want external things just adding whatever they want, right?
Yeah, I just make an example like for Tecton in Tecton Upstream, we have Tecton events in addition to CDEvents, and I mean in Tecton events, I mean we put the entire kind of runtime CRD in the body of the event, because then the receiver can then use various fields from the CRD to take decisions about what to do as a response in response to that event. And I mean you could constrain it to a subset of that. You could say, well, you don't actually need the entire CRD. Maybe, I mean, most use cases you will need like the metadata of the CRD, labels, annotation, that kind of stuff, and you can take decisions based on that. Um, but again, that type of data would not fit, I think, your definition
Yeah, I would have to see the
today.
data. So yeah, if you can, yeah, I'll create the PR. We can discuss more on it. Because
Yeah.
yeah, I don't want to get too hung up on, like on the particular use cases, at least for this meeting. But yeah, I'll create the PR. That way we can have like a real big deep dive into the use cases that you're thinking of, and especially if you have concrete ones like Tecton, that becomes really, really helpful. Um, Okay, so yeah, what I'll do is as an action item, I will create this as a PR. I'll clean it up a little bit. And another thing that I wanted to talk about, which has been really kind of like I was trying to reason about service deployed. And the more I thought about it, I realized it was like modeled inversely. And what I mean by that is this is the only um feel or the only subject that has uh like I'll give you an example, right? Like service dot deployed. Why for even pipeline run, you would have like service.pipeline run follows that same like model. Like it should be the other way around where it's like deployment.queued, deployment.started, deployment.finished, right? Like the service is the entity that is being deployed. So it's like modeled backwards. And then so my thinking was, and I already mentioned this in the other chat, and both David and Didisi. So David wanted to talk more about it, but Didisi actually was like, yeah, that's that's he was in favor of it. So I just wanted to call that out in case you didn't see the Slack thread, Andrea.
Hmm.
Um, because the reason why is service.deployed um is is doing more than what it probably should be representing. Like service.packaged or service.published makes total sense. Or service dot, like it'd be like whatever that's relevant to the actual service itself, right? But the deployment is more of a type of pipeline or a series of or a description of what it's going to be deployed. So yeah, that's kind of my main concern with like service.deployed. So what I think we should do is we should deprecate service.deployed, either deprecate it or have it mean something very specific. And how this came up, to give you a little bit of context, is when I was working on the definitions, like I've been working on this def, so I'm gonna have like a PR that has like 5 more definitions. I got through like all the orchestrators, like pipeline run, task run, and then I started going through the artifact ones, and I started going through CI, then CD, and I was like, service.deploy. I was like, that one sticks out like a sore thumb. That one doesn't really follow all the other ones. And when I was trying to create definitions for it, it was like really difficult to kind of like figure out, a good way to model it where it was consistent with all the other definitions because it's done inversely. So so my question is, are we okay introducing deployment, the deployment subject with, following the same pattern of pipeline where it has like queued, started and finished? And then on top of that, another thing that I've been thinking about is deployments typically have have multiple partitions, right? Like right now, we have environment that kind of represents that partition. But environment is I think it's being conflated with like target and region or whatever it may be. So I think we need to also separate out those two concepts, but that can be for a later discussion. I first want to handle the inverted pattern of deployment. So what are your thoughts on that?
Um, yeah. So, like from a historic point of view, I think just to give you a context where I think the service events came from, they come out of what Knative used to do, or what Knative does. So in Knative, you have this concept of K-service, which is a service like a Kubernetes service that can automatically scale all the way down to zero. Um, and so that's, I think, why the name is service. Um, I mean, I guess you could have a deployment that does not create a service. Uh, so it's a bit, I think they both might be valid. Um,
Well,
or
my thinking was that you would have a deployment and it would have like a target, what it was deploying, right? The artifact, which it could be a service, it could be a config, right? So I think that's the pattern that I haven't thought too deeply in how I want to model it, but I imagine that's how we probably want to do it, something similar in that vein. That way, we can describe it more generally, right? Um, and the reason why I say this too is because, um, like a lot of the time, especially like in Spinnaker, right? You don't know what's being deployed. All you know is like it's an artifact, right? So like service
Hmm.
dot deployed, like we don't know whether or not it's like a config update, right? And like even with deployment dot, or finish, we don't really necessarily know what the artifact was, right? So it would be
Yeah,
up to some other external system kind of like make that determination or have that be persisted from like a user's point of view.
yeah.
But the issue with service.deployed then becomes, if it was a config change, it doesn't really represent that correctly, right?
Hmm.
So it, I don't know. It just feels,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. As I said, I think. I mean, I tend to agree. I think it's a bit more like how to say, like if you have a task run that creates an artifact. Um, so I mean, the task run or the build, they start and they well they start, they stop, and so forth, and then they have an artifact created. But we also have like artifact. The artifact itself can have events,
Hmm.
and those events maybe they're created by the artifact registry, so which is where the artifact is
Hmm.
pushed published to. And those they don't have like a start and stop because it's like okay, now it's created on the system. It's not like I'm starting to creating it, and I think
Yeah.
maybe it's similarly if you could, I don't know if it maps exactly, just thinking out loud, but like I think a deployment would start and stop and finish and succeed or fail, and it could contain a service definition or a config change, like you're saying, could be many things from an application platform point of view. Then the result of a deployment could be that a service has been created or updated or so forth. Um, and I think that's why I was mentioning like the Knative perspective. I think from Knative point of view, Knative knows that a service has been created, and that's why those events talk about services because they know it is actually a service that has been deployed. But I see how that doesn't necessarily make sense for like a proper CD platform like Spinnaker or others.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Um,
I want to highlight something too is that I'm not suggesting we get rid of like service the subject because service like published makes total sense, right? Like that
yeah,
actually is I think the proper subject predicate because it describes the resource first and the action that it had taken, right? And yeah, I think that's modeled perfectly fine. It's just that unfortunately, service.deployed is like the only one that I think has this issue. So, and I think it makes sense, when you're following the Knative space, but that doesn't mean we need to follow it so strictly, especially now, right? So
yeah,
yeah, so what I can do is I can create a PR for that. It'll probably be next week for deployments. And then I'll figure out like the partition one too, because that's going to be because it's like in the same vein. Because when I was writing the definitions, I was like, oh, how do we deal with like regions that aren't environments and things like that? I was like, oh, well, I gotta introduce that concept as well.
yeah,
So that's why I was like, and what was really good about this like thought experiment was like writing the definitions was a really good thought experiment because it's like I'm defining these things, and then I introduce this new word, for example, like region or partition. I'm like, oh, I need to define that. But then I'm like, but that's also a concept part of the SDLC. Should that not be an event? So that's why I'm just like flagging these like a lot, like recently, just because like I'm writing these definitions, I'm realizing they're not really some of these things don't exist, right? And they don't
yeah,
all need to exist, but I think things like partition probably does, right? Um, so yeah,
yeah.
so with that said, I will go ahead and create the deployment PR probably sometime next week. Also create the PR today or tomorrow for the best practices. And then we'll figure out like where the best link for that on the website is because we definitely want it on the website. I just don't maybe like a getting started somewhere similar to that would be really really appropriate, but we'll see. I don't know. I can think of like a few areas. Um, but yeah, okay, awesome. Yeah, this is yeah
Yeah,
that I think that makes a lot of sense.
yeah, yeah.
Did,
So with regard to environments, I think again the well, no, it's a bit different, but the background for that is, I mean, we started simple with in all areas. Like we even with changes, we kind of assume single commits. We don't have a concept of releases. So
mhm.
all the areas where we you can like aggregate more things or partition things, we didn't do them in the beginning because we didn't want to start complex with a lot of complexity,
Yeah, yeah,
and
makes
we
sense.
wanted to add that complexity as needed. So I mean, it totally makes sense to have like concept of partitions, of course, and
Mhm.
so yeah, if you, I mean, you have the expertise and the time to work on that, by all means.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
just want to make sure that, like I'm not like just, like, oh, is this something we actually want to model? I just want to make sure like you're thinking like that makes sense because like like I said, I'm just going off the definitions. I'm like, oh, I feel like this is needed, but I'm not 100% sure. I think it should be, but I just wanted to bounce the idea off of you. And it sounds like I think once we have the proposal, it'll be a little bit more clear whether or not we need it. Does that work?
Yeah, yeah, it
Okay.
works. That sounds good.
All right. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So that was pretty much all that I had. Did you have anything else, Andrea? And if not, I'm sure Victor has some updates for the
Yeah, not update. I have some question actually. Just what you discussed, how do you maintain backward compatibility? For example, I know it's completely irrelevant. At least it sounds like a deployment service that Kubernetes you know very well already. So if you need to make a change, the reason I
Mhm,
ask is that like for example, OpenTelemetry, they are CD-WAN compatible, my understanding.
mhm.
So if you make a change, how do you I guess if somebody already adopting it in a their project like CD, I mean OpenTelemetry,
Mhm.
how does how does the change get propagated to them, I guess?
Oh, it'd just be as any other. So because we're pre 1.0, we can't make any guarantees to the contract, but we don't make any guarantees that the contract is stable, is what I mean. But with that said, is we do our best to make try to not make as many, breaking changes like left and right is what I'm getting at. But also what we plan on doing for specifically for deployment, right? So service.deployed. Um, that if we do decide that that is a redundant subject predicate after deployment is introduced, we would just add like the deprecated field, I'd imagine, because that's a pretty widely used event. And just add the deprecated field in the JSON schema, and then have it like a sunset date, also alongside with the deprecated Boolean. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah. First of all, if it's I didn't realize it's pre 1.0. Yeah, if it's
Mhm.
pre 1.0, yeah, there's no guarantee for sure.
Yeah.
So I didn't quite get what you're talking about the service versus deployment yet. I'll read the notes, meeting notes later. Yeah, about the details.
Mhm.
Another thing is AI is changing a lot of things. Agent is doing deployment. Identifying bug and GitHub. Somebody the GitHub creator is creating a new GitHub project. So to be agent friendly, all that could potentially change how the CI/CD workflow works. So how do I guess the question is, does CD event need to be released after taking those into consideration? And if it's released before all the agentic stuff will become mature, how to make sure future event is backward compatible?
Well, specifically to this, so CDEvents would not need to change because the SDLC flow does not change when you introduce, agentic, parties. So I think that's okay. Now, that does open the door of whether or not we want AI related events, which I think would potentially be very useful, but we need to think about that more. I haven't thought too much about it. I can't really say too much about it either, but I don't know if have you thought about that subject at all, Andrea, AI? If that has a place for in CDEvents?
Um, I'm sure it does. But yeah, I don't have like a specific or clear idea of how. So yeah, so I mean, there will be there might be like new predicates or even maybe some specific subjects that will be worth adding. Um, like we have pretty generic art subject like artifacts, and those could encompass things like models and prompts and uh, but it may be the case that specific AI specific artifacts or AI specific processes warrant additional subject with specific schemas that because they carry data that would not be needed otherwise. And so I think city events certainly can include those. I'm not sure that there will be, because of the AI, that there will be events or predicted that will need to disappear. So anything that is added will be backward compatible in that sense.
For example, the I just actually last week I met a kid that's going into Google, and he said that his work is not coding anymore. His work is review, merge, commit. That's it. So that will change a lot of the workflow dramatically. Um, because yeah, how to integrate those processes into the whole the CD event uh, catalog.
Right,
Yeah.
but like I said, the SDLC events themselves are always going to be present. Like you're just removing the human aspect of it and replacing it with like a tool aspect, right? So I think that's still fine, unless you have a concrete example of like where that doesn't work. I'm having trouble creating one in my brain that where the current CD events flow breaks.
So one topic that um, it's been discussed a lot in the AI space is that of human agency, if you will. So, how to distinguish and identify machines versus human. And I see that, schemas might be enhanced in a way to allow for that information to be transported in the events at some point. Okay, well, this PI was created by a tool, by an agent who was created by a human, or maybe allow even things like, was this reviewed by a human before it was pushed by an agent, or this kind of things. I think that type of information could be very valuable, but I see it as like uh, information that is added onto existing events or possibly new events, as rather than changing completely or like removing existing events. That's at least as far as I can see.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Andrea. Was there a particular flow that you were thinking of, Victor, that would be modeled differently? Because that's where I'm having trouble. And when I say modeled differently, I'm not saying that the event would be even different. I'm just saying that the events that are sent would be different. Like for instance, like change.reviewed would still be reviewed. It'd just be by an AI agent, right, as opposed to a human. So I guess I'm having trouble understanding like where the break would be, or maybe I'm missing the point. So yeah, can you clarify if that's what you mean?
Yeah, I think one thing Andrea mentioned that is definitely relevance is the agency thing, right? So the most of events are useful, especially where it's kind of a human kind of stop, think, pass the task to the next person in the workflow, right? That's the my understanding, at least that's the events for. So in the agentic workflow, the AI could be working with other AI agents. So you can say it's kind of a fully automated. It doesn't really stop. So it's kind of from one agent doing, for example, coding to another one doing review, but the review is not like stop and review. It's just kind of automated workflow.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
And that's still okay. Is that an issue, I guess is my question. Like I don't understand. I guess my question is why does automation bring up issues is what I'm wondering.
it just, I guess the main thing is there's no, at least the coding piece, supposedly some of the project is completely fully automated. So I guess it feels like it's different. I guess whether it can still be modeled using the existing CD event. That's different question.
Yeah, and I think and like I said, like I'm not saying that the CD events would be um the same, like the actual like schemas. Because Andre is right. Like, if we're automating or if we're automating something or some AI agent is doing something, we want to be able to capture that somewhere, right? So I think that is okay, but it still doesn't, it still doesn't change how CD events would be working today. It would just change, like the field, if you will, that
Yeah,
was introduced.
I
Like
think
maybe, yeah.
I'll definitely need to number one, review the current city event more, and second, yeah, pay attention to the what is possible change from those and bring it back and ask question, yeah, with more specific examples.
Okay. Yeah, that would be really helpful. And one thing too that I think we need, so I've been working on the side, I've been working on the website a little bit. Um, One thing that I think that would be really nice is having an end to end, like from like GitHub. It doesn't have to be GitHub, but like some SEM tool all the way to deployment, where it has that full workflow and shows like events going in and out, just to kind of give that whole picture like right on the front entrance of the web page to really make it clear on what it is. Um, but yeah, yeah, I think like I said, like as you're talking, Victor, the reason why I brought it up, because I think that would help paint the picture a little bit better for you on why AI would just kind of be extra metadata or just additional events, completely additive.
I think that would be great idea. If you have a like CD event in a kind of a pictured diagram, that will help understand it and also maybe present that to someone either using or even developing new agentic workflow to say, yeah, does it work for you? And anything new you think need to be added? Yeah, that would definitely will help.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, like I said, I'll try to get something together. Like I said, I've been slowly working on the website, but I'll try to get something together by maybe by the end of the month. And I'll tag you on it as a reviewer so you can take a look.
Yeah, awesome. Same thing for not only for AI, but also for data events. That's very helpful. Will be, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that works. That works perfect then. Okay, that's something that I will do then. Let me add that
Whatever you
here.
put in the one you reviewed about the data constraint, all those concepts, yeah, if it can be reflected in that the diagram on what CD event is really about, that's going to be really tremendously helpful.
Okay, yeah, yeah. On front page of website. Okay, I will go ahead and start thinking about what that should look like. But okay, yeah, that's something that I can definitely do. Um, how is the data side going for you?
Um, kind of take the lazy step, waiting for Daisy to create his control plane, and then using that as a because we there's a lot of thoughts going into it for the data ops team on what should be in there, right? The problem is, even if we can come up with a long list, but is that something, the projects even want to adopt is different, right? So once we got the first version of today's his control plane, and then we can actually take it to both the data ops team itself, but also to the actual data ops related projects to say, this is for CI/CD for CD events. What do you think? Should we do something for data ops events? And then we give them a list we already have, which is pretty long.
Mhm.
Most of them are just really in theory, not practical. And then say, okay, they'll probably be much easier for them to pick. Oh, this is actually really helpful. Otherwise, we'd be creating a lot of new events and just turn out to be not something that's number one used in sync with CD events, the concepts. Second, be really useful to the real world.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Um, okay, yeah, that's something I can think about as well. Um, okay. So is there anything else that anyone had? And then I just want to make sure too, with you, Victor. Um, it sounds like um it sounds like we okay, well, let me table the let me first get the website updated because I want to first get you at least kind of see the big picture of CD events, and maybe then I can start like asking more of the because I feel like so I have some questions that are more specific to the data flow. But I think I'm asking it a little bit too soon, so I'm going to hold off a little bit. I'm just giving you a little bit of context of why I backtracked. Um, and then, but once you see that website, which, like I said, which is going to happen in the hopefully in the next couple of weeks, let me know when you see it because then I'll follow up on the data flow questions that I had. It's based off that document that you posted a while ago.
Andrea?
Yeah, Andre, sorry, that's your hand.
Uh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, no, it just you asked if there was anything else. Just one last thing I wanted to bring up from my side. Um, I think we are still pending release 051, and I know you wanted to do it this time, Ben. Um,
Yes.
just wanted to, yeah,
Okay,
remind
so
you of that.
for 051, okay, let me get the best practices and the deployment events and see how long that'll take. And if we don't get the deployment events, let's say reviewed by the next week, we could do 051. Does that work?
Okay, yeah, I mean, I would like to wait as little as possible because we have made a release with the bug out, and so I mean the
Oh, do
051,
we? Oh, yeah, I remember with the spec version, right? Okay,
yeah.
okay,
So
let's do that this week then. I'll ping you offline and we can find a time and you can shadow. Sound good?
sounds good. All
Okay.
right, thanks.
All right, well, that's it. If no one has any questions, thank you again. Appreciate your time. Look out for that message regarding that diagram. I'll probably just send you the diagram first, Victor. And then Andrea, please take a look at the PR for constraints or best practices, probably end of day today. And then I'll continue working on the definitions and the website. Sound good?
That's good. Thanks.
All right, thanks everyone. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye
Bye-bye.
bye.